is synchronicity.
This 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 is synchronicity.
Welcome to Synchronicity. My guest this week is Wendy Yellen. We're going to be talking about eidetics and eidetic imagery, which you will hear all about. I'm not going to spoil it in the intro. Wendy was a lovely, pleasurable person to speak to. You'll hear all about that in this episode. If you want to find out more about Wendy, you'll hear in the episode, but go to myspiritualmanifesto.com. It'll make more sense as you listen to the episode, but I'll say that up top, and around top. So, as you may know, this show is purely done for the love of money. Podcasting in general is only done for money. It's the only reason one would do podcasting. There's no other real reason. It's for the making of money and capitalist desires and greed. That's the only reason we do it as podcasters. So with that, we're going to be unveiling a new, very exciting advertisement sponsorship on a weekly rotation. You may be saying, hey, no, this is just counter to the ethos of the show. I don't think you should be doing this. And it's like, you know what? You don't get it. You just don't get it. We need these dollars and Bitcoins and all of that money coming in. So this week, our first sponsor is, this show is brought to you. Let me get this right. I want to make sure I get this right. This week, this Synchronicity is brought to you by My Garden. It is now featuring tomatoes, basil, red peppers, jalapenos, green beans, cucumbers, so many cucumbers, and lots of other goodies that you can eat. Thank you. Big thanks to My Garden for doing this. It is an amazing sponsorship that we're really looking forward to. Hopefully getting some other big ones going on because, gotta pay them bills. Gotta pay them bills. That's right, gotta pay them bills. All right, so thank you. We're going to be doing that. Without further ado, how about we get to the episode? How about enough fuckery for this episode and this intro? A friend recently who's starting a podcast asked me, hey, what's a good intro? Any examples of what I should be listening to? And I said, you know what? Whatever you like, truthfully, because I don't think a lot of people listen to the intros. And if they do, that's cool. But a lot of times people are just selling you stuff. Shit you don't need for a small little cut. What's up with that? It's not worth it. Now listen, that's totally different than My Garden, who's paying me a shitload of money for talking about it. So I don't want to upset them. So don't think that it's something different. Anyway, we're going to get to this episode. You're going to love Wendy. You're going to like eidetics a lot, I think. I'm pretty sure you will after this episode. It's a really interesting way of using imagery, not remembered imagery, to kind of evoke certain emotional feeling and other, observational states, much like meditation, as you will find out. Anyway, fun conversation. You're really going to enjoy it. Big thanks to Patrick Nemchek. We're going to say that right at the top. Boom. Nailed the phrase at the top. Boom, boom. Patrick, you're the best. If you want to compete with Patrick, go to patreon.com/synchronicity and you can try to outbid him for the highest bidder of people who support me and this show. Good luck. Not going to happen. That's it. Go check out mindpodnetwork.com. There's a lot of stuff there. A lot of cool podcasts that you can check out. I'm in a sing-songy kind of mood. All right, here it is. Without further ado, here is Wendy Yellen. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I've had the pleasure of kind of investigating what you do over the past week or so, and it's really interesting stuff. So I'm just thank you for coming on.
I so appreciate it. I've been listening to you too, so we're having a mutual admiration society.
Great. So eidetics. Let's start there, right? Could you maybe let's before that. Could you give a brief overview of who you are and what you do, especially professionally, and how you help people?
Yeah, let me start with an old story, and I'll connect it for you why I'm
Okay.
telling you the story, because it will tell you about who I am, and I think even more importantly, it'll connect with parts of your listeners.
Awesome.
So back in what used to be called junior high school, I was I grew up in Buffalo, New York, which has huge amounts of snow, very cold winters. And my mother had dressed me. She was still dressing me at this point, and she bought this dress for me, which was too tight and itchy, and the collar was way too high, and the length was very bad, like old lady length. And I just hated having it on me, and I felt, first of all, I'm not, and I also wasn't a dress kind of person most of the time, and it just felt like somebody else's skin on me, and I felt so rebellious inside, and really, I was pretty a young junior high school girl, and I didn't know what to do with it, but I knew I was really upset by it. So I remember really clearly going out into the snow after school. So I'm wearing this dress and boots, which like already makes for an awful picture, but and, and I'm stomping around in the snow, and I'm writing words with my boots, and I'm saying, I am not couth. I am not couth. And over, I didn't even know if there was such a word as couth. I knew there was uncouth.
Yeah.
But this was my way to say, look, this isn't me, and I can't stand it, and you can't define me. So fast forward to many years later. So I was really interested, and still am, in how people actually change. Not forcing ourselves to do a different behavior, not quote unquote understanding something, but then still doing the same thing over and over. Right. I really wanted to know, how do people actually make a shift? And so I went to Smith School for Social Work, and my thesis was about change, and I was comparing different ways of change. So I studied both traditional, so Smith is a very psychodynamic, psychoanalytic school, at least it was when I was there. And so I was trained very traditionally, but at the same time, you can imagine that skirt was too tight. That dress was too tight. Right. So I also was studying Ericksonian and hypnotherapy and family therapy and brief strategic therapy and and then I went into body work and emotional release body work. I really was looking for ways to supplement just being in the head, because being in the head didn't seem like enough. Right. I had a private practice where I was doing all of those modalities. So I was certified. I had my master's, and then I got certified in a bunch of other stuff. And I had a full practice, 100% referral, 100% waiting list, and 100% full. Which is, I had no idea how great that was. But the universe had other things in store for me. Because, so here's this incredible business that is some people's dream, no marketing. And yet, and obviously, I think this goes without saying, but I want to underline it. For my practice to be full and for me to be a referral based, means that the people that I was working with liked what they were getting. Right. But I didn't. Right. I knew I hoped, right? I hoped there was more. But with all these different modalities that I was experiencing for myself personally too, of course, I didn't feel like this was enough. So I actually closed my business. Wow. I went to Japan for a few years with my husband for 5 years, did all kinds of other things. And when I came back, I didn't want to open my practice again. Right. So I did all kinds of other things. And then I rediscovered Eidetics, which we're going to sample a little bit of later today. Cool. And I thought 20 years ago when I had first experienced it, it didn't make any sense to me. But when I rediscovered it, my mind was more open and I wasn't so frantically only in my head. And so I could understand. And I thought, oh my God, if this is what I hoped the mind could do, I just didn't know how to do it. And so I actually gave up all my certifications and went into totally only working with Eidetics, because for me, it's the holy grail.
That's quite the story of giving up. It's funny how when you have a huge flowing practice professional life, how it's pretty hard to appreciate just what that's like until it goes away. But I also can really relate to the feeling of I also ran, it was digital marketing, but 100% referral based, 100% capacity, and for years and years. But towards the end of it, I felt similarly to you, where my clients were obviously happy. I continued to have them, but for me, it was draining, and it felt like this wasn't what I wanted to be doing. Certainly not forever, but even in the short term. So I can definitely relate to that. So what about Eidetics, when you revisited it, really caught your attention the second time around?
I will remember being in a workshop with Dr. Asen, who is the father and the founder of Eidetic Imagery, and he's my mentor too, cool. And friend also. And I remember we were doing an image, and so I at this point had done quite a bit of personal inner work, personal work, very deep work, therapy, right? So I figured I knew myself pretty well. So, and that didn't mean I was perfect by any means, but I knew
you'd done some spelunking before. Yeah.
yes. And I hadn't gotten caught on the cliff.
Right.
So I felt, okay, so there's more to learn, but it would only be deepening kind of the places I already knew. And when I saw the images, the images have to do, they're not, I'll show you later, but they're not visualization. So they're not controlled by the conscious mind. So when I saw my own images that my own deeper consciousness was showing to me, and what they do is they show you where you're stuck and they show you the way out. But the really interesting thing is that we fight against what we say we want.
Yeah.
And so, that's the really insidious part. I want to tell you a story about that in a moment. But so when I'm literally seeing and feeling the places, like really deep, insidious, difficult places in me that are so painful to know. And yet the truth of what I'm seeing is in my face.
Right.
And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this has been going on in me all this time. No wonder.
Yeah. It sounds like to me two things. One, it sounds like Jung's concept of the shadow aspects of our personality and self, and also the experience that you just described sounds like what a lot of people have happen to them when they go to ayahuasca or ceremonial psychedelic sessions, where they get a very quick kind of face-to-face image of what has actually been going on, and they're like, oh my God, like forever I've been dealing with this, like since I was born, or like a few years after. So it's really interesting that there's a path to kind of experiencing these images, without maybe the aid of a ceremony with plant medicine, but also kind of an active way to confront your shadow side.
It's absolutely, well, there's so much in what you said, but I'll just stick with where we're going today. So the really fascinating, so let's talk about how people try to solve things right now.
Yeah.
So often. So I work with people, not necessarily directly with whatever spiritual path they're following, but indirectly. So most of the time, what people are doing, my clients, and by the way, my clients look really good from the outside, but it's the inside where they want to experience a difference. So they're often in a decent relationship. Maybe they have a family doing fairly well, doing at least okay, if not very well, in their business or in their life. And so again, from the outside, they look fine.
Right.
But they're the kind of people who want more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That they are stomping in the snow in some way. I am not couth. They are
Right.
rebelling against what is supposed to be okay. They want more. So so they have some sort of spiritual practice. Maybe it's yoga, which they frequently feel like they're not doing enough of, or that's rampant, or meditation, or spiritual readings, things like that. So but what so happens is that there's this division between the spiritual time, even with ayahuasca or psychedelics, if people are taking them for those reasons.
Yes.
There's a division between the spiritual time and the rest of life.
Yes.
Right? So the division looks like this. I feel so good and so connected during my practice, and I really experience expansion and contact with something greater, or similar words, whatever, the way they would speak about it. But in my life, I'm getting frustrated and I'm angry and I'm irritated and things aren't going the way I want them to in some ways. And that's not how I feel in my practice. So how come I can't feel more of what I feel during my quote unquote practice during the rest of my life? And then what people often do, and this is the part that I feel Eidetics can so help with, then what people say is, well, I guess I should just do it, whatever it is. Like, I should just market myself, or I should just be nicer to my partner, even though they're driving me crazy and I really don't like what they're doing and I want to love them, but I really don't. Maybe I should just be real, or maybe I should just like shut myself up and never say what I think, or, all that kind of stuff. And the solution is way too often, let me control what I think, or let me control what I feel. I will feel this. I won't feel that. I will think this. I won't think that. And our minds are not organized or set up to do those things. That's why we go to things like meditation or psychedelics or spiritual practices. Yeah. That's why we do that. But the thing is, then to go back to the conscious mind or to try to force a feeling, it just, on the bigger things, let's put it this way, it works in some ways, but I'm talking about the ways and the places in our lives where it doesn't work, which are usually the biggest ways.
Right. It's basically, how do we access the transformational qualities for the things that potentially are holding us back or just making us suffer unduly, right? Like not something that we don't really isn't serving us anymore. And it'd be interesting to see how many of those things maybe served us at one point, but then just no longer do. It's interesting. You also mentioned this idea of the schism between these spiritual times and the mundane times, which people naturally tend to do. But it's not true. As we know, as you continue along any sort of path, there's not actually a difference. And then finally, you also mentioned that thing, I call it the spiritual retreat syndrome, where maybe you go to this beautiful place, this center or this country or whatever it is for this meditation retreat or whatever it is. There, everything is bliss. Everything is love. There's no strife in the world. You see how to be an open-hearted person and be tolerant and non-judgmental. And then 2 weeks later, you're back in the car, someone's tailgating you and you're losing your mind. So, and it's the spiritual retreat syndrome. It's this fading of thing. But the question is, and I think this is where people can often verge into something that you're describing in a way, which is this spiritual materialism, which is, let me just gloss over these issues with more meditation or more reading or more just, I'm going to forgive, without actually understanding why or how to do that, but just saying, this is what I'm supposed to do, therefore let me do it. Kind of like a diet, like a forced diet that you really don't want to do and doesn't fit into your lifestyle.
Absolutely. Again, Noah, there's so much in what you just said. So I can only follow a few of the threads here. So let me pick up one of them. I'm thinking about, first back to what you said a couple moments ago, which was that what happens, let's say you have a cut in your finger. as long as you keep it clean and you're relatively healthy, that cut is going to heal from the inside out perfectly fine. And as long as it's small enough, you'll never know it was there later. And there, you don't need to be staring at your finger, making it heal, right? There are things you could do to support it, but basically your body already knows how to do that. And you, on some level, we already know we don't have to do anything other than just take care of it, right? It's not up to our conscious mind. It's not needed. The conscious mind, again, that's not its job description. Mm-hmm. However, when it comes to the psyche, and this is how I felt before I rediscovered Eidetics. When it comes to the psyche, we think we have to use our head to do that.
Right.
So let's talk. Let me give you a story. Then this goes to the points you were one of the points you were making just a second ago. So I'm working with a client who's deeply spiritual and also incredibly physically ill right now. Mm-hmm. And part of what goes on in her mind, I'm just going to disguise and change some of the details just for, of course. Right, confidentiality. So one of the things that happens to her is that, and it's partly because of her history with her parents, she is in her head trying to figure things out almost all the time. Is she okay? Are people receiving her okay? Is she doing something wrong? Does she really understand what's going on? And part of this is exacerbated by the way the illness is affecting her. Mm-hmm. So she goes into but all of us experience some aspect of this where this is the monkey mind, right? This is what one of my teachers, Josh Pice, calls the crack den of the mind, which I think is perfect. So we go in there, right? We never come out. So, so she's in the crack den of her mind, but lost in there. And she's trying to figure out when somebody comes up to her and starts to talk to her, and she's in such deep, deep physical pain. And she's trying to figure out how to relate to this while she's in this enormous pain in this very difficult physical position. And yet she wants to care about this person, and she can't figure her way out of it. Right. And she's trying to force herself to be civil or to find some way to say, look, I really can't talk, but none of this is working for her. Now, maybe your listeners don't have that exact situation, but we all get into a situation where we're trying to figure it out. It's not comfortable, and yet we don't have the solution quite yet, and then we're trying to make it happen. Does that make sense so far?
It makes a tremendous amount of sense. That's one of the most uncomfortable feelings one can have.
Yes. So what we did something very, very simple. We took one of the images that she personally has been working with, because everybody has their unique images that are dedicated towards what they want now in their life at this part of their life, and also where their obstacles are in their psyche. Right. So they're very carefully put together for that. So I worked with her with one of the images. All she did was have this image in her mind while she was seeing this situation. This will make more sense. I think we ought to do an image in a moment. But anyway, so she's keeping one part of her mind on this other image of hers, and she's also interacting with the woman in her mind, and all of that angst and overheated thinking and super stress starts to melt. Now, here's the really beautiful part of that. In that melting, of course, she starts to feel physically better, because when you're sick or feeling pain, and then something else happens, you start to get tighter, and that makes the pain worse, both in the mind and in the body. But more generally for everyone, because more generally to what everybody experiences all the time, is that overheated thinking started to slow down. She started to relax. She started to be in the interaction more. She started to be able to actually see and feel this person, and all that inner pressure to be a certain way, it just dissolved.
Right.
So more of her started coming through. That's the beautiful part about the organic piece of this work. We're not trying to add something to the person that isn't already there. We're just removing the crust that's over us because of our history, so more of us can naturally evolve like it does in our practices.
That's an incredibly important and poignant story, because the uncovering kind of metaphor there is something that's found in almost every mystical and spiritual tradition. The the religions or cults or whatever you want to call them that continuously say you need to add things to you,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
a hallmark of something that doesn't make sense, because it's
Yes.
really just counter to every spiritual and fundamental truth one will find on their path. So I love that that is the essence of this, because I find when people try to construct different, either mental constructs or regimens or things that they need to add into their lives to make them whole, that's really never the case. It's removing or kind of analyzing or shedding light on things rather than kind of adding on. So I love that that's a part of it.
Yeah, of course, I totally agree with you. The difficult part in our society these days is that, one, most people don't know how to do it another way,
Yeah.
right? And it's like a fallback position.
Right.
So it becomes the fallback solution. So I think let's go into an example of an image so people
Yeah.
have an experience.
Totally.
So you can experience this too, Noah, as I'm going through it. I'll experience it too. And then I'll talk to everybody about the possibilities that might be happening in their images, which will all be unique. So I'll just do my best with
Okay.
that.
Awesome.
Yeah?
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I need to do a little foundation here for everybody so you can have as deep an experience as possible.
Sure.
So first of all, you could do what we're about to do. You can do it with your eyes open or closed. Obviously not closed if you're driving. And I would suggest you don't do it when you're driving, or at least do it again when you go home, because you'll get more from this.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. I'm going to give you some very simple instructions of one eidetic image, which is an image that's already inside you. It's one of thousands, and it's going to have a visual component and a feeling component and layers and multiple layers of meaning. For some of you, it's going to be vivid. For some, it'll be vague. It doesn't matter. For some of you, you'll see it immediately. For some of you, it'll take a much longer time. It doesn't matter. For some of you, there'll be lots of feelings, and for some of you, there won't be hardly any. I'll talk to you about that. And for some of you, will stay completely in your head and completely in memory. Now, that's a whole different situation, which we won't work with today, but I will talk to you about that. And then after we have the experience, I'll show you a different way that you can have a deeper experience.
Cool.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so for everybody, Noah and me included, I'm going to try to do this myself as I'm talking. So think of something that you'd like to experience a shift in your personal life right now, and just have that in mind. And I have mine. Noah, you have yours? You want to share it?
Yeah, I'll share mine.
Okay.
I do have it. I would like to find a better sense of professional flow in my life. So, yeah.
Can you explain just a little more about that?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
And listeners of the podcast will be somewhat familiar. So I recently transitioned away from a career that was doing well for me a year and a half, 2 years ago. I've been lucky to be financially stable throughout this process, so it hasn't been abundantly stressful for at least half of it. But now I'm looking to kind of move into something where every day I get up and I kind of like, this is the thing I'm doing and I'm happy to be doing it. I'm kind of in a searching period right now, and I'm trying to look for some more consistency or solidity in that realm.
Okay, so is it fair to say, because it'll help me when we're working later, but is it fair to say that it's a little bit in this transition that you've just made. It's feeling a little more scattered than usual.
That would be exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yes,
Great.
yes.
Great. So everybody's going to have a little bit of obviously your own unique place you want to go. For me, I think for right now, what I'm going to do is connect even more to something greater. I want to do an experience with that for
Gotcha.
myself.
Cool.
And so now you all have something for yourself. And of course, during this podcast, if you're not listening live, you can always pause if you need more time. So Noah and I will go into this along with you. So here we go. Oh, by the way, sorry. This, as I said already, is not an intellectual exercise, and it is not controlled by your conscious mind. So that means that you want to treat your image like a thoroughbred horse. You want to give it free rein. You don't want to control it. You don't want to discount what it's showing you. You just want to let it be free rein. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I thought of one more thing that I think I better say.
Yeah.
I better say this. So we're going to be having an image that has to do where your parents will be showing up. However, big underline, bold, italics. However, this is not about your history or your memories. We're actually looking at your consciousness. More about that in a bit. Okay. So see your parents in the house that you think of as a home, the house that you grew up in, the house you think of as a home. See your parents. Where are they in this moment in your image? And what are they doing? And this should be from a time when you're growing up. So if it's current or if you're an adult, let that go and see your parents from a time when you're growing up in the house that you think of as a home, and actually look and see, use your eyes. Where are they? Not where would they be, but where are they? And what are they doing? I'm going to give you a moment to do that. I'm going to do it too. Now, when you see, and you may need more time, so pause if you do. Now, when you see them, notice, how do you feel when you see them? How do you feel when you see each of them? Don't try to make it more vivid. Just let it be whatever it is. And then where are you and what are you doing? And how old are you? Where are you? What are you doing? And how old are you? Now, your image may surprise you. It may not. It doesn't have to, but it may surprise you. Let it be. Let it be whatever it is. And notice what the feelings are for the young you. If you find that you're thinking about things, instead, put your focus on what you're seeing first and then feeling. So, no, I'm going to give us each another few seconds to do this, as well as the listeners. Okay. So, Noah, do you want to share what you're seeing?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. And let me make a suggestion while we're listening. So this is not about analyzing, because the true work of this happens inside the images. The images themselves will take you where you're wanting to go. This is what Noah and I have been talking about the whole time. and while you're listening to Noah and to me, watch the images that we're describing, because you'll be able to feel them too. Go ahead, Noah, and then I'll do mine, and then I'll talk to everybody.
All right, cool. So I'm in my childhood home. I can see my parents in the kitchen, kind of by the sink. I know they'll probably be listening to this, so please don't take this as me indicting them on trial. They're arguing. So, I think it's a tense environment. I feel I'm at the kitchen table. I'm pretty young. I actually don't remember. This is not something I've ever gotten an image of before, so it's not a memory. It
Yes.
might be a memory, but I've never placed it before. I feel really young.
Yes.
Now that I have a 2-year-old, I want to say somewhere like 2 to 3, probably. And I feel, I don't think nervous is the right word. Anxious is probably anxious and tense. And then some aspect of kind of trying to distance myself from the situation, internally, not physically, not like get away from the place physically. And yeah, I see my dad seems kind of frustrated, angry, and my mom just seems upset and tense. That's the image I get.
Okay. All right. Great. Really well done, because you're seeing something and you're not trying to make it into a memory or
Yeah.
think it has to be a memory. So you're really letting your eidetic consciousness come forward. That's perfect. And you're feeling things.
Yeah.
So anxious, tense, you're wanting to distance yourself in your body, but not physically moving away.
Correct. Yeah.
And your dad is frustrated and angry. Your mother's very intense.
Yes.
And yes, mom and dad, this is not about you. This is about Noah. Okay. Now, so could you want to work with this a little bit as an example for
sure.
everyone? Okay,
Sure.
great. So we're going to do an experiment, see where it goes. And this is another one of the eidetic images. Again, one of thousands. So your young self, I saw you about 3. Yeah. So you're seeing yourself 2 or 3. And you're staying still. You're not moving away, but it's tense inside and anxious inside.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, are you familiar and are your people familiar with Ganesh?
Yes. Remover of obstacles.
Yes.
I have right here in my hand, no joke, a gold spoon with Ganesh on it.
That you've been holding?
I just picked it up because it was less than a foot away from me.
After I said it?
Right after you said it, yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's here,
okay.
though.
Oh, I just had chills on every part of me. Okay. So then I'm going to switch what I was going to do and we'll go with that. So
Okay.
Yes, Ganesh, the remover of obstacles and the protector of children. And for those of you who aren't totally familiar, he has the head of an elephant and the body of a young boy. And he has a tummy, like a little bit of a round tummy.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that he likes Indian sweets.
Yeah.
So now let's go back to your image, and you can all try this in your image. Some of you saw a tense situation or a difficult situation. Some of you saw more positive. So if you saw positive, just go in with Noah's image. See Noah's image. If you saw negative, you could try this with your own or with Noah's. So Noah, now go back and look at your parents and see the tension and the frustration and the anger in the room, in each of them, in yourself. Yes?
Yeah.
And tell me when you're really seeing it and feeling it again.
I'm seeing it and feeling it.
Okay, and feeling it. Good. Now see that Ganesh is there with you. And just watch. Tell us as you see it, what you see and what you feel. Do not control in any way.
Okay. I feel, Ganesh is next to me, not that tall, so kind of basically eye level. Maybe he's a little lower because I think I'm sitting high up. I feel a lightness, kind of a buoyancy, I would say, like just a lessening of the tension and anxiousness in myself.
Yes.
It doesn't seem like my parents actually are aware that Ganesh is there. They're kind of still doing their own thing, but the presence next to me is certainly calming, is the word that comes to mind.
Yes. And what are you doing? Are you still sitting there? What do you see? What is happening to you as you feel the buoyancy and the calming, even though they're still doing their own thing? What's happening inside the young you?
I'm relaxing.
Yeah.
I'm definitely relaxing, and internally, I don't feel constricted anymore, or lessening to the point where it's not omnipresent in my consciousness. Um, Definitely less concerned about the tension in the
Yeah.
room. And just kind of more a feeling of freedom, I guess would I would say is coming up.
Yes. And oh my goodness, you're doing so great because you're really seeing and feeling, right? Noah, this
Yeah,
is
I
great.
do that pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell. So now, how does the atmosphere, the air in the kitchen feel to you, the young you now?
It feels a lot lighter. The environment seems kind of like there's a bubble of tension around my parents, and the
Yes,
rest of it is kind of returned, or in a sense of kind of normalcy, and that's kind of just happening over there rather
yes,
than the entire room being filled with it.
excellent. Okay, now we're going to go into the so what part of this, right?
Yeah.
So, no, I'm speaking to everybody here and to you, Noah. So you said you felt more, more scattered than you wanted to be, and you wanted to feel more consistent with your professional flow,
Yes.
right? Okay. So now, I think let's try it this way. Now, see that you're sitting at work,
Okay.
okay, and in a situation where you'd normally feel more scattered and less consistent than you want to be.
Okay.
Okay. And so you're seeing it. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And now see that Ganesh is there with you, and watch and take your time. I'm going to just talk you through it. What is he doing? Or more, even better than doing, what do you actually see when he's there? And what happens inside you when he's there? And what do you see overall in the image? Again, take your time. You can all do this. This is a way of using what we call a filter. It's a little bit more advanced, but I know Noah can do it.
So I can do it. It came at first. It was like I don't know. This one's harder, but I actually got the image. So I'm actually where I am now. This is where I work. So I'm at my desk. My computer is out. I think I have some Python code in front of me. I'm learning a programming language, and I'm frustrated. And when I picture Ganesh there, Ganesh is his left hand is on my right shoulder. He's kind of behind to the side of me. And when that happens, I again kind of get this, out breath relaxation feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Not the frustration that tends to bubble up, or the impatience is dissipated significantly. And it's a feeling that to be fair, I can actually relate to. I've experienced that in real life before, but it's one that in the image is now emanates as he's there.
Yeah. So let me take a side trip on that for a second.
Yeah.
So what you and I were talking about before is uncovering what's already in someone, as opposed to having to put something new in there, which is so unnecessary and impossible. So what you already know, and you've already experienced in life, an ability to dissipate impatience and to relax.
Right.
And I would suspect, correct me if I'm wrong, but what happens with all of us when we take a new step, let's say a new kind of business, a new level up in either, let's say, our relationship to others or to ourselves, or to our work, we will experience the places in us that are blocking that. Right?
I'm laughing because obviously,
yeah. That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's why most businesses fail.
Yeah.
Because that is just part and parcel of becoming larger, bigger, doing a better job, going out more fully out. Same with relationships. We tend to fall back into our old ways. So new things bring up old stuff.
Yes.
And so this, even though this is while this is a state that you absolutely know, you hadn't been accessing it as much as you wanted to right now in this new phase.
That's right. That's right.
Right? So your consciousness is so brilliant that it was able to take what Ganesh brings, who obviously you have a connection to Ganesh, but I've done this with people who've never heard of him.
Right.
He's wonderful. And again, he's just one of thousands of images, but he's one I love. And he brought you to a different state, which allows you to dissipate the impatience. And I would assume, feel less scattered. Is that fair to say?
It is very fair to say. I mean, in the image specifically, it's palpable. It's a visceral feeling.
Yes. So now we have you having immediate access to another part of you, not something that you now have to remember how to do, but we skipped over the remember how to do part and we went straight to the feeling of it. Now, obviously with our discussion from today, this isn't about trying to remember the feeling, because that's the other thing that people do. I don't know. Are you a Bonnie Raitt fan at all? Do you like her music?
I do like Bonnie Raitt. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I do too. And from a long time ago. And one of the things she said that just blew me away when I started to think about it, she says, you can't make your heart feel something it won't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true.
You can't, right? You can't make it feel, your heart feel something. However, you just felt palpably dissipation of impatience.
The shift from the imagery. So
yes,
does the imagery, what is your rationale or reasoning, or what do you understand about the imagery being such a powerful kind of, catalyst for this type of change? Because it is just clearly, I conjured up a non-memory that I've never thought about before in two different situations, and it really is, it's profound sensory experience. What is it? What is the juice to this, I guess?
I don't know that I have a thoroughly satisfying explanation.
That's okay.
But I have parts. Right? So one, the word eidetics comes from the ancient Greek eidos, and they didn't use it as a therapy, but they did know the images, they'd seen them, and they called them gifts from the gods. That's how powerful they recognized that these images are. Second of all, and I actually write about this in a spiritual manifesto that I've just put together, we have gone so much into the Aristotelian world, 1 + 1 = 2, into over logic, over rational. I know, because I've listened to your podcast, I know that you're very well acquainted and have a lot of thinking about this. This is a world that skips over the consciousness that is still available to us.
Right.
And so it's a part of us that the culture doesn't encourage, but we did have before. Well, it's not like we had it before. It's just we are rushing around so much right now that we're just like quick. And I would like to make a little advertisement here for love, because I don't know if you've ever been on the receiving end of someone who's in a quick mode, and it has to do with relationship, but there is no relationship when someone is hurry. It is just, it's the deeper essence inside of us cannot be related to within that place, in that place.
That's so interesting, because when you're saying that and you look at what kind of culture we find ourselves, especially in the West here, like that's what is encouraged and really, is thriving right now. This is something I've been speaking about just recently in a lot of my episodes. Just, this overwhelm we have, and how now we're talking about the overwhelm, but yet we're still experiencing it. And if you just look at that personal connection between two people, I know when I've been abundantly busy and don't have time to interact, how upset that will make her over a course of time. And if we look at this is kind of what is going on with everyone, it's not surprising to see some of these kind of both psychic and physical manifestations of
Yes.
suffering, happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree. And that's, again, the split between the spiritual practice
Right.
and the rest of life.
Right.
Let me just say a word to people about their images, because I think I don't want to leave people with that. So, as I said, I referred to this in part. There were probably 3 different things that could have happened to you. First, you could have just stayed in memory and history and thinking. That's too, there's too much in that for me to go into deeply. So I'm just going to address the other 2 for now.
Sure.
So some people saw a lot of negativity in their image, a lot of difficult visual stuff and feelings from one parent or both parents. Some people saw some positive, either in one or both parents. And so let's say you saw some and felt positive things. It may have been surprising to you. Like, whoa, that feels really good. But then what a lot of people will do with that, they say, I wish I felt that more now.
Mm-hmm.
So what your image is actually giving you is the place that it is still in you now. Because we're not dealing with memory. We're dealing with your consciousness. That's why Noah's parents don't have to worry about this image.
Yeah.
Right? We're dealing with your personal consciousness. So it's showing you that other place is still there, and it's giving you access to us. And that's where the work is. That's where the actual work is. Now, if you saw something negative, like Noah was seeing negative in both parents, and when I saw for years, that's all I saw in all my images. And yet things were happening inside me. So the negative parts are, and please hear this, because this is not some superficial, sort of axiom.
Gratitude.
Yes, I have seen this and experienced this for myself and my private clients, in my mastermind clients, in all the work I do with people. That really difficult place is the portal inside you to experiencing what it covered up, which you just saw in Noah, was palpably experiencing that relaxation and that sense that the other stuff is not interfering anymore. It's still there,
right?
But there's a bubble around it, palpably experiencing it. And again, this is the work I do with my private clients and my mastermind clients. The work is working with the images so that access to that place is faster and easier. And for those of you who want to go further, I'd like to give people a way to get in touch.
Oh, of course,
here.
of course,
Yeah?
of course, yeah.
So I mentioned earlier a spiritual manifesto that I wrote. I wanted to explore what happens, how people have such a distance between spiritual practice and life, and what they can do about it. And I write in the spiritual manifesto, which is a gift, and I'll show you how to get to it. I talk about a story about a woman who wants to have her business be fun and also successful, but she's got the 2 completely separated in her mind. Right? So many people do this. And so then she's working herself like crazy, feeling awful, and then playing and feeling guilty. And the problem is, this is exactly what her mother did, and exactly what drove her nuts about her mother. So, of course, what is she doing? What we all do. We practice being exactly like the parent that we most want not to be like. And so it has that story, has lots of practical information. It has a way that you can experience eidetics more deeply for yourself. It's my gift, and it's at www.myspiritualmanifesto.com.
Cool. Thank you for offering that to people too. And
My
I mean, I
pleasure.
know in just our short time here, I can get a sense of kind of who you are and more importantly, why you're doing this. This is something that I've been around the spiritual, nonprofit, new age, self-help, yoga, all that stuff realms long enough to know is a spectrum of people of why they kind of get into this. And I think your story that you also mentioned at the beginning highlights that I don't think you're doing this for the money. And there's no problem getting paid for this stuff. This is something I always have to remind my creative friends and artist friends and service helper people that there's nothing wrong with getting paid for this stuff, but that's not the primary reason. And I think, just from the brief thing you did with me there, like this stuff really, if it's calling to you, do it, because what we're all searching for is how to just live better lives, starting with ourselves, and that naturally can extend out to other people and the world at large. So I really appreciate that you're kind of offering this out there in the world.
Thank you, Noah. I feel and appreciate back your the generosity of your spirit. Because I feel that. Thank you.
Of course. So I asked three. We've come to the end so quickly. Is there anything else you wanted to share before I get to my questions?
Yeah. One of my expressions on my website is, "You didn't come here for a life half lived." And if you're feeling that, if your dress or your tie or your pair of pants or just feels like it's the wrong skin, and there's more to you and to life, that you just know it, even if you don't know how to get there, don't ignore that. Don't destroy what matters most.
It's well said, and it's true. And I found in my own life, when I do kind of push that stuff away, it just inevitably leads to undue suffering and catastrophe.
Yes.
Sometimes. Yeah.
So true.
All right. So 3 quick questions, then one kind of longer one. First question, as silly as they may sound, what is your favorite color?
Currently, it's this purplish kind of fuchsia.
Ooh, I like it. What is your favorite number?
I still like 12.
Ooh, why 12?
I don't know. It always seemed like a nice, round, good number.
You don't have to.
Know.
You don't know. Need to know why. That's
knows?
cool. It's one I don't normally hear, which is why I asked. That's cool.
What do you normally hear?
I hear a lot of 7s and 3s and 9s. Those seem to be the ones that bubble up most frequently. And then some higher ones that I'm like, how did you guys get to those? Like 87. All right, cool. What is your favorite animal?
Oh, that's so hard. Oh my goodness. I'm going to pick, I love raptors, and I love big cats like bobcats and foxes. Cool. I took 3.
Yeah, you can have 3. That's so cool. Raptors, bobcats, foxes. Got it. Cool. And last question. What is a practical tip that has helped you in your life that you could share with people listening?
Okay, so notice when you go into the crack den. Every single time you go into the crack den, notice it as quickly as you can. Now, it may take seconds, minutes, months, or years.
Yeah.
Truly, and notice it. And then notice the next time, and the next time, and the next time. And if you will actually do that and do the work to come out of it, the time you spend in the crack den will be less and less. And I know this absolutely because I've done it. I still have a crack den, but I don't visit very frequently. I visit, but I don't visit for very long.
Yeah. And you don't do crack. You're just stopping by to say, hey guys, you don't have to be here.
Definitely do not do that.
Yeah, Wendy, thank you so much for doing this. I'm glad we got in touch, and I'm really hoping some people who this resonated with reach out. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Noah.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to that them episode. It was good. Thank you though. Go check out Wendy, myspiritualmanifesto.com. There's also wendyyellen.com. Eidetics, EIDETICS. Although you probably clicked this episode, you saw it written out anyway. But just spelling it out for you. Literally. Big thank you again to Patrick Nemchek, who is the coolest. Other stuff coming. Loosey goosey, having fun. Enjoy the summer while it lasts, and then enjoy the fall. And then the other seasons, whatever they may be. Okay, lots of love. See you next week.